Picture this. Your grandma cancels on family game night. Again. You're left wondering, is she just tired, or is there something more to it? If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Today, we're uncovering 6 surprising reasons why older adults, like your parents, grandparents, or maybe even you someday, start dodging social. She's the first one hitting no on every RSVP. You might think, oh, maybe she's just over reading or people. But nope, it's not that simple. Decades of broken trust have piled up. Like that one friend who couldn't keep her mouth shut about Joan's secrets. Imagine Joan flipping through an old scrapbook, smiling at the memories, then closing it with a quiet sigh. Suddenly, a cartoon anvil labeled "Past Hurts" drops right onto her shoulders. She tries to shrug it off, but that weight, it sticks around. That's what the pros call relational fatigue. It's not that folks like Joan are trying to shove everyone away. Trust me, she's not sitting there plotting to become a hermit. It's more like they've spent years dodging letdowns and disappointments, so they start building these walls. Not to keep people out exactly, but to keep some peace in. After all, when you've been burned enough times, you don't just get cautious. You basically earn a PhD in "fool me once, shame on you." And let's be real, who hasn't felt that sting at least once? You know what I mean? That moment when a friend let you down, and it shifted something inside you. Maybe you got a little more guarded, a little less quick to say yes. So tell me, ever been burned like that? How did it change you? Drop your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And you know, after years of navigating those emotional ups and downs, it's no wonder that older adults start to crave something different in their social lives. Picture this. On one side, you've got a loud, crowded party where everyone's trapped in that cringe-worthy "so, how's the weather?" loop, smiles plastered on. But you can tell they're all secretly counting the minutes until they can bolt. Then, on the other side, there's someone curled up by a crackling fireplace, sipping tea with this quiet, contented smile that says, "I've got nowhere else to be, and I'm good with that." Guess which one starts to look like the real winner after 70? Take Sam, for instance. At 75, this guy used to be the king of the party scene. Work happy hours were his kingdom, and he'd charm the socks off everyone with a grin and a story. But these days, Sam's traded the bar stool for a cozy chair in his garden, having deep, one-sided chats with his plants. And honestly, who can blame him? Those leafy buddies don't pester him about his golf swing or demand to know why he's still not on Instagram. They just listen, or at least they don't talk back. It's like this. As you get older, your energy turns into this exclusive VIP guest list. Small talk. Yeah, it's not making the cut. It's that annoying +1 who hogs the snacks and adds nothing to the vibe. But peace, that's the headliner, the one with the permanent spot at the top of the list, no questions asked. You've probably seen that introvert meme floating around. You know, the one that's like, "Sorry, I can't hang out. I've got to recharge my soul." Well, older adults are out here living that truth. They've put in their time with the noise and the chatter, and now they've earned the right to say, "Nah, I'm good. Give me the quiet instead." It's not about being antisocial. It's about picking what actually fills the tank instead of draining it dry. So, I've got to know, what's your go-to excuse for dodging the small talk trap? Are you rolling with the classic, "Oh, I've got a thing," and a vague wave, or do you get a little more creative with it? Drop it in the comments below. I'm dying to hear your escape moves. And you know, when you've spent years craving those real, soul-filling conversations, it stings even more when you finally try to open up, and no one seems to get it. Picture Clara, 80 years young, standing at a family barbecue with a story practically bursting out of her. She launches into this epic tale about her wild 1960s road trip. Think flower crowns, dusty highways, and maybe a little mischief. But as she's talking, you can see the kids' eyes glued to their phones, scrolling through TikTok like it's the only thing that matters. Clara's voice starts to trail off, her excitement fading like an old photograph. She's not mad though, just quietly done trying. It's like watching a cartoon bubble of her story float up, bright and full of life, only to pop the second those phone screens light up. The disconnect is real, and it's brutal. This isn't just a bad day, it's emotional invalidation. When no one bothers to step into your world, why keep inviting them in? It's exhausting. Honestly, it's like trying to explain the magic of vinyl records to a kid who's only ever known Spotify. You're met with this blank stare, and you're left wondering if you're speaking a different language. Ever felt like you're shouting into the void, even when you're surrounded by people? That's Clara's daily reality, and it's why so many older adults start to pull back. It's not about giving up, it's about protecting their energy. And when you feel like no one understands you, it's easy to start thinking you're just in the way. Picture Tom. He's 83, living alone, and his son calls up, all cheerful, saying, "Hey Dad, I'll swing by and pick you up for dinner." Tom brushes it off with a quick, "Oh, I'll manage." But deep down, we know how this ends. He doesn't call back. He doesn't get in that car. Instead, he's sitting there, staring at a bowl of cold soup, the silence louder than ever. Imagine this. Tom reaches for the phone, his hand trembling just a bit, then pulls back. Over him looms this giant shadow of a question mark, whispering, "Am I too much?" It's not that he's trying to be difficult. It's not stubbornness. It's dignity. That's the thing. Older adults like Tom don't want to feel like a chore on someone's to-do list. They'd rather fade into the background, stay home, and deal with the loneliness than risk being that person someone has to handle. Think about it. When's the last time you didn't ask for help because you felt like that guy? You know, the one who's slowing everyone down or making things harder. We've all been there, swallowing our needs, just to keep from being a burden. For Tom, and so many others, that feeling doesn't just pop up once in a while. It's a daily battle, fought in the small, quiet moments no one else sees. And you know, as we get older, it's not just about wrestling with our own fears or quirks. It's also about watching the people who once lit up our world slowly slip out of the frame. Not because of some explosive argument or a Hollywood-style showdown, but because life has this sneaky way of pulling us in different directions. Imagine two buddies hunched over steaming mugs in a cozy cafe, cracking up so hard they can barely breathe, the kind of laughter that makes your sides ache. Then, picture that scene fading, like an old movie reel, into one of them waving from the back of a moving truck, boxes teetering as they roll off to a new life somewhere else. The phone that used to light up with their name, it's gone quiet now. You just stopped picking up the phone. There wasn't some big, tear-soaked goodbye or a shouting match to mark the end. It was softer than that, quieter, like the last glow of daylight sinking below the horizon. And that's the thing about growing older. Relationships don't always go out with a bang. More often, they just drift off, carried away on a breeze you didn't even notice until it was gone. But here's the kicker. It's not a sign you've messed up. It's not failure. It's just life evolving, shifting, making space for what's next. It's a bit like that moment in Friends when Ross shows up to the reunion, all pumped to see the gang, only to realize he didn't make the guest list. Except in real life, There's no canned laughter or dramatic sting, just a hush that settles in. For Lila, and maybe for you too, that quiet drift can sting in its own way. A little ache for what used to be. But here's where it gets good. It's okay to let those threads unravel. You can cherish the memories, the late-night talks, the goofy traditions, without chaining yourself to them. Sometimes, that empty space they leave behind is exactly what you need to rediscover your own rhythm, to hear your own voice a little clearer. Ever notice how the quiet endings sneak up on you? They don't shout for attention, but man, do they leave a mark. And as those quiet endings settle in, it's tempting to think everything just fades out, like the last note of a song you weren't ready to stop hearing. But here's the beautiful twist. Those endings aren't the end at all. They're clearing the stage for something that's been there all along, waiting patiently to step into the spotlight. For so many older adults, that something is the most loyal companion they've ever had, themselves. Imagine this. There's a woman brushing bold strokes of orange and pink across a canvas, painting a sunset so vivid you can almost feel the warmth. Then there's a guy in his kitchen, apron on, grooving to some invisible beat as he stirs a pot that smells like comfort itself. Out on a trail, another soul's hiking with this big goofy grin, like the mountains just told him the best joke. These aren't lonely moments, they're full-on celebrations, little parties for one that prove you don't need a crowd to feel alive. Take Edith. She's 85 and used to be the heartbeat of every potluck in town. Her place was where you'd hear the clink of plates, the roar of laughter, and that magic vibe that kept everyone lingering way past dessert. But now, she's swapped the hosting gig for something even better. You'll catch her kneading sourdough like a pro, flour dusting her cheeks, or sprawled out with a murder mystery that's got her hooked till the wee hours. Ask her about it, and she'll flash this grin that lights up the room and say, "Best date ever. Me." For Edith, and so many like her, solitude isn't some consolation prize. It's the grand prize they've been working toward all along. It's that sacred space where they can finally just be. No pretending, no performing, just pure, unfiltered freedom. And let's be real. Who needs a +1 when you've got Netflix ready to roll and a cookie recipe so good it's basically love in edible form? As that bright acoustic guitar strums along, you can feel the shift. This isn't about scraping by, it's about thriving. It's a quiet kind of joy, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. It's like they've cracked the code. After all those years of giving to others, they've finally claimed the best company around, themselves. And as that bright acoustic guitar keeps strumming, you can almost hear the freedom in it. The kind that comes when you realize you don't need anyone else's permission to live your best life. It's like these older adults have unlocked this secret vault of wisdom, and they're cashing it in for something far richer than a packed social calendar. So why do they start ghosting the social scene? It's those past betrayals that taught them to guard their hearts, the way they've traded empty chatter for peace that actually feels good, and that ache of feeling unseen in a world that's spinning too fast to listen. It's the quiet courage of stepping back so they don't feel like a burden. The gentle drift of old ties fading into memory, and, hands down the best part, the way they've fallen head over heels for their own company. This isn't them running away. It's them stepping into wisdom like it's a pair of well-worn boots that fit just right. Next time your aunt skips the family barbecue, or your grandpa says, "Nah, I'm good," to that big reunion, don't roll your eyes or assume they're missing out. Give them a knowing smile instead, because chances are They're having a better time than you are, painting their own sunsets or perfecting that sourdough crust. They've earned this, and it's beautiful. So, I've got to know, which one of these hit you right in the feels? Was it the sting of fading friendships? Or maybe that craving for quiet? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and I can't wait to hear your take. If this flipped a switch for you, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell for more real talk like this. Because here's the truth. Growing older doesn't mean shrinking. It means shining brighter on your own terms. You've got that power too, so don't sleep on it. Own it, starting right now.